Hello, good afternoon. May we request everybody to sit down? We will start in a few minutes. Hello, good afternoon. May we request everybody to sit down, please? We will start in a few minutes. Hello, good afternoon. Let us all welcome our host for this afternoon event, Dr. Kathy Vistriu and Dr. Toby Dairit.
Dito tayo, sa baba muna tayo. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to this Balik-Tanaw program. Siguro just to start off, actually brainchild ni Kathy, hindi sa akin. Nagsimula ito kasi we celebrated the 50 years of dun sa Service Awards, Father Ben. So we thought about 50 years and it turns out between chemistry and math, dalawang 50 years. And there are many things to celebrate 50 years. Ano ngayon, 2023. Both Father Ben and Father Ting were ordained 1973. So that's 50 years ago. And then looking at all the other 50-year, maraming 50 years. So we thought it's a good opportunity to balik-tanaw, tignan ko ano nangyari. Kasi so many things were happening in the early 70s. So that's really what it's all about. And many of those have implications or results that we see today, both. So generally the program will talk about academic part, ano nangyari sa Ateneo within those 50 years, and especially those which were related to what Father Ting and Father Ben were involved in. And the second, yung mga social, marami namang social, yung martial law 72 and those things. So, Kathy?
So let me introduce the honorees. So Father Ting, Samson. Father Ting finished high school at the Ateneo de Manila in 1954 and college also at the Ateneo de Manila in 1958. AB Chemistry, cum laude, class valedictorian.
Yay.
He joined the Society of Jesus in Sacred Heart Novitiate, Novaliches, Quezon City on May 30, 1958, and was ordained in April 1973, hence the 50-year celebration. He began work at Ateneo de Manila, second semester of 1970 to 71. In 1973, he became the director of the Office of Admission and Aid. So 50 years na rin. He became Executive Vice President of the Ateneo de Manila University from 1977 to 1986. President of Ateneo Davao University, 1986 to 1993. President of Xavier, Cagayan de Oro City, and from 1993 to 2005. And again, back to Ateneo de Davao University as president in the late 2004 to 2011.
Yeah, maybe I just add, Father Ting lived in the dorm for maybe 15 years. Yeah, and he had a pet dog. Lahat ng mga dorm niya, inaalagaan yung kanyang aso. Kaya actually mababait yung mga dorm doon kasi andun si Father Ting. So marami siyang kaibigan sa dorm in that generation. So welcome Father Ting.
Welcome, Father Ting. And then Father Ben. Father Ben graduated from Berkman's College in Cebu with a degree in philosophy in 1962, finished his MS and PhD degrees in mathematics at Stanford University from 1965 to 1970. Father Ben also celebrates his 50 years as a Jesuit priest this year. Upon ordination in 1973, he became the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences and served in this capacity until 1980. He was also rector of the Loyola House of Studies from 1980 to 1982. And then from 1983 to 1989, he served as provincial superior of the Jesuits in the Philippines. Father Ben was also president of Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan in Cagayan de Oro from 1990 to 1993. He was the longest-serving president of the Ateneo de Manila University from 1993 to 2011. And for many of us here, I think we can say that we would not be here where we are now in our careers, here in the university, our home departments, if not for Father Ben's mentoring, kindness, generosity, and love. So welcome, Father Ben. So may we ask Father Ting and Father Ben to join us here on stage.
Sige, so let's start. We'll start with reminiscences of Father Ting. Of course, this is early 1970s. There are two general themes that we'll talk about. Yung academic development, what was happening then, and yung mga social developments, including at that time co-education became a big movement. So maybe we'll ask Father Ting what he wants to share about those times.
Okay. So good afternoon to all, and thank you for coming. I've not been back here really at the college for a long time. This said I left Manila in 1986. Really just very brief, I suppose. I thought we should just relate this evening and your work at the Ateneo with the Society of Jesus. It was founded in 1540. They came to the Philippines in 1581. They were expelled in 1768. They were restored in 1814 and came back in 1859, became the Ateneo de Manila. They came back to the Philippines for Mindanao. They were kidnapped in Manila by the authorities and to take care of an Ateneo Municipal. So that's the start of Ateneo de Manila. So really, education was not in the mind of the early Jesuits, founded by Ignatius of Loyola. They were like itinerant preachers going around taking care of the poor, hospitals, people, the sick. But then founded officially in 1540, in 1548, they accepted a college in Messina in Sicily. At that time, college is like our high school. And they began a really, maybe at that time, the biggest sort of a collection of schools of a religious group in the church. Interesting thing, the founders of the society, Ignatius and so many companions, 8 or 9, were all graduates of the University of Paris with master's degrees. So they were well trained, not for education, but to really be like itinerant preachers. Remember, the Protestant Revolution was about 1519, 1521, 1540, Europe was there. So it's the context that the Ateneo de Manila. Of course, it was under the Spanish Jesuits, but then the Philippines transferred from Spain to the US with the Treaty of Paris, 1898. So American Jesuits eventually came to the Philippines, 1921. At the Ateneo, English, the Ateneo English accent became very important at that time. Ateneo was at Intramuros. It was really the original under the Spaniards. It was a public school. Eventually, under the Americans, it became a private school owned and run by the Jesuits. It was destroyed by fire in 1932. They moved to Padre Faura, and then eventually, 1952, they moved to this campus. It's good to celebrate. Thank you, 50 years. I'm probably the oldest one here. I was in second year high school when we moved here in 1952. So I've seen this campus from the very beginning of this existence at Loyola Heights. To see how small the Ateneo was then at Padre Faura, I was there for a year and a half. When I finished high school in 54, we were about 160 graduates. When I finished college in 1958, we were 92 graduates. So the main thing of the Ateneo then was really the high school as a formative period for people. They say train people and they become better people by getting good training. So the Ateneo as a university, getting bigger as a college, came a lot later. As you all know, it became a university at 100 years, 1959. And well, I joined the Jesuits in 58. And for the first years of a Jesuit, there was no internet, no phone calls. I was really not in touch with anybody until after I got back from studies in 1970. That's 12 years. The thing I missed in all of those years, I only attended one wedding of a classmate. They all married 12 years after college, so I missed them all. So as they said, I came to the Ateneo, began teaching chemistry while I was studying theology for ordination to the priesthood. So the Ateneo, well, I don't know, I ended up in admission and aid, doing budget work with the university. And even after I left the Ateneo, I was a member of the finance committee of Ateneo. You wouldn't believe it, from about 1977 to 2015. I'm doing a lot of things in finances. I've never taken a course in economics or accounting, and I hate accountants. So whatever I learned, you learned it from other people. And only all those years, did a lot of work with men. So my whole life has been in education. And even when I was in Cagayan and Davao for 25 years, I had a bicycle here. Not a bicycle, I had a motorbike to play pelota here. I had a room at the Ateneo. So really, I've seen the Ateneo from my first year high school, 1950. That's a long time. That's 73 years ago, older than anybody here. So it's really nice to be here. How did I end up in chemistry? I don't know. And at that time, well, I taught chemistry from 71 to 86. I did organic chemistry. I was involved here at the PhD. Later, we'll talk about a little. The PhD program consortium supported by the NSDB then, National Science Development Board, UP Ateneo Lasal, for doctorates in chemistry, physics, and math. Ben was very heavily involved in getting that started. I was involved in PPAC, building of PPAC before 1986. Was involved in building of FAURA about that time. I was telling someone, FAURA was built as an Asia grant from the US for $1 million. PPAC came as a grant from a Japanese agency to the Philippine government. As Armand knows, PPAC does not own the building. It's owned by the Department of Creative Industry of the Philippines. That cost $4 million. They wanted to import everything from Spain, even the gravel and the cement. So the building could stand in, it's the first building on campus with an automatic generator. And they had probably the best locks. Father Schmidt was so careful about the locks of the building at PPAC. So basically, in the 70s, the big moves at the Ateneo became co-ed in 1973, became larger and larger beginning at that point. And, well, let's stop there.
Thank you, Father Ting. Thank you. So I think Father Ben can add and share his.
Well, I never studied in Ateneo, so I was in the seminary the whole time. So I joined the Society of Jesus right after high school from Vegan Seminary and the San Jose Seminary. I think I wanted to share mainly about the history of the departments and I guess the PhD programs in science here and founders. So pay tribute to Father Schmidt, who was really key founder of chemistry. For mathematics, it was Father Wallace Campbell, who came here, I think, in the 50s, early 60s. And it was he who started doing serious mathematics in the Philippines. He actually reformed mathematics at the grade school and high school level as well, and developed a very strong BS math program. He would always teach the honors class in fourth year high school, and he was a very good salesman. So he convinced the brightest pupils there to say the best course is BS math. So we had very brilliant students in the BS math program. And then he recruited teachers, Berijo Ruiz, he recruited Dr. Bill Torres, one who didn't stay very long, Dr. Shioson, Frederick Shioson is the only PhD at that time, and really started a very strong math program. So by the time Father Samson and I came back in the 70s, there was a solid undergraduate program in chemistry and a solid undergraduate program in mathematics. However, so when I came back in 1970 and I asked myself, what should I do in the math area? I thought that I should really build on what we already had. We had a BS math program. So the next challenge was, how do you develop a PhD program? And of course, the problem was that there were only 2 PhDs in the Philippines at that time, myself and Dr. Favila in UP. So how do you start a PhD program with that? So we bootstrapped. We developed the Mathematical Society of the Philippines, and that allowed us to connect with the Southeast Asian Mathematical Society in Singapore. And in the very first years, we depended very much on mathematics friends in Singapore who would come here and regularly give seminars and workshops. The other important thing about the Math Society is that it allowed us to connect with influential people because we needed money. We wanted to be sure that the PhD students would study full time. I said, you cannot do a serious PhD in science part time. So we had to be sure that they could do it full time. And so therefore, we wanted to be sure that they could, maybe you could do it now. At that time, you couldn't. We wanted to be sure that they could study full time. So we needed money. The first breakthrough actually was the UP Statistics had funding from, I think, ADB to do a PhD in statistics, and they did not have enough students. So Dr. Tito Mejares said, Ben, he called me and said, Ben, can you use some money for your PhD program in math? I said, sure, of course. So I guess we got ₱1 million, something like that. But he said you have to finish in 3 years because that's the funding thing. So we got Marijo Ruiz, the first, Norman is here, the very first batch there. So first two from Balik-Tanaw, then from UP, Rene Felix and Aurora Transa, and one who actually died during the course. So 4 of them. And they finished in 3 years. And you might say, how on earth did we do that? Joe Marasigan also came back. We basically taught the courses to them. And we had arrangements then, which would not be possible anymore today with the curriculum committee and with the CHED. We simply said that for the PhD, there are 2 important things. They must be able to pass a comprehensive at a very good level, showing that they know enough mathematics, what people call, what every mathematician should know, and they should be able to do research and produce an original work, some original work. Those are the 2 conditions. We just find a way to put numbers on the units. No, we just find a way to calculate the units. But the other important thing is that we had a consortium with UP and LaSalle. And the arrangement in the consortium was that you could take, you had a mother university for a PhD, it could be Ateneo at that time or UP, and you could take the course in any university. You could take a course in UP and it would be credited at Ateneo. So we didn't have to worry about the limits and cross-registration. We did not have to bother about cross-registration problems. No. There was no, all courses were registered in your university. So we were able to make arrangements like that. In that, and then we were able to make arrangements with friends in Singapore, later on with Japan and Australia, so that they would come regularly and give seminars. And in the process of the seminars, we would connect our students with them for the thesis. And so the thesis, they would have a mentor from abroad, what we call eventually the sandwich program. So it worked. It worked. By the time we finished the PhD program we finished the consortium in the 80s, we had graduated 40 or 50 in mathematics. I don't remember chemistry, fewer in physics. And that's really the backbone of the math, physics, chemistry departments in Ateneo, UP, and LaSalle. And I'm SUIT. So I think what's very important is that what I want to say is if you want to do something new and you have limited resources, you really have to say to yourself, what is the most essential? And find a way to get around the bureaucracy. Otherwise you'll never do it. Otherwise, if we did not do that, there would still be not much in the Philippines. That consortium program is the backbone of the science programs here in the Philippines. We could build in it. So I want to stress that. The other thing I wanted to say is, I don't know if you want to go to the social things now.
Yes, Father, if you can connect it to the social climate at that time.
Well, the other thing, of course, is that we came back in 70 in the activism period. Students were burning tires outside. One of our brightest students would come to his calculus class and run out and burn some more tires and then come back for his class. There was one time when the students were pushing the glass door in the president's thing, pushing on one end, and Father Ampil was trying to push on the other end. So it was fun. As Father Ting said, we started co-education at that time. I officially became dean in 1973, but my appointment was actually in 72 when Father Cruz stepped down as dean and became president. So I was I was appointed dean, although I was not official. And so one of my very first duties was to get co-education passed in September of 1972. And then Father Ting and I were very busy making sure we built toilets for the women. And we realized you could not just build a toilet, you had to have some kind of a powder room beside. So there were a lot of new things that we had to handle. We had to build more classrooms. So it was, remember, it was decided in September 72, and the women started claiming in June. So we really had to rush to get physical facilities and everything else. The other big thing at that time was we called Philippinization. Technically, Philippinization in the religious orders was really a push to make sure that provincials and presidents of universities of religious were Filipinos. But for us in the Ateneo de Manila, Philippinization meant above all getting the Ateneo, getting faculty, and getting students involved in the country. That was our main thing. So that's why we established the Office of Social Concern and Involvement. We had the social development complex is a bit neglected now, but they were very vibrant at the time. Benji can tell you that the Workers' College, the organizing for rural development, or for the urban poor, were very, very vibrant, more vibrant than they are now at that time. And then the immersion programs were a whole week, and we even had a Sandiwa, a whole summer program where faculty and some faculty students would actually spend the whole summer in the barrios. What I want to tell you is that it was very important, not just from the point of view, it was important to get our students engaged with the poor, but it was also very important in terms of our engagement with the left and with martial law. Liberation theology at that time was coming in, and also a lot of influence from the National Democratic Front and the Marxism-Leninism and so on. And that's what most people remember. Most people remember the battle against martial law. But for example, if you read Tina Montiel's edited here, this book, Down from the Hill, the Ateneo in the First 10 Years of Martial Law, you will see that we were not fundamentally preoccupied with martial law. We engaged martial law. We are preoccupied at that time with getting Ateneans involved with the poor. But because of that involvement, because of that involvement, we were able precisely to engage martial law from a very positive point of view. Now, it was not negative simply. It was not just simply fighting martial law. It was really saying that we have to find a way for the Ateneo to really take care of our people, the poor in particular. And so we could engage activists and get them to engage the challenges that we want at that time, but from a Christian point of view. I don't remember if Tina remembers that we were talking with the students in the seminars, and I think you told me sometimes, "Oh, Ben, these kids really pray." So we wanted to be sure that we could really you can't imagine how strong the left was at that time, and I have great respect for them, but I disagreed with the end. No, I did not particularly. The dictatorship of the proletariat was a problem, no? But we were able to engage these sort of poor. So the 19th, if you have I brought this book edited by Susan Evangelista and Tina Matiel. It's out of print now, but Tina says there's an ebook. You should really take a look at it. It details very much what Ateneo was doing and what it was like from 1972 to 1982, with testimonials from Benji, from so many people here, and because the memory of martial law now is a bit limited. It simply talks about the oppressions of martial law and the Marcoses. Of course, we had to tackle them, but it sounds as though that was our main preoccupation, but it's not true. That was not our main preoccupation. We were very preoccupied with living out Father Rupes, men and women for others. We were very preoccupied with academics, of course, and martial law got in the way a few times, but that was not our main preoccupation. And I think it's quite important to do that.
Well, given today's situation, what would you reflect on, what we should do moving forward, both maybe in academics and also in social,
In academics, what is happening now is because this ranking system of universities, basically the biggest component is publications and research. And the two problems with it. One is that I think, but my own understanding of Ateneo culture is that we have really always been heavily focused on undergraduates. We have always been focused on the formative years, as Father Ting says, high school and college. But that doesn't count in the rankings. Paying attention to your undergraduates doesn't count in the rankings. Agnes and some Principal Math were saying that they feel that some faculty would feel that the time they give to taking care of undergraduates is not fully appreciated. But that is what makes Jesuit education Jesuit education. The attention that we pay to our students, which Times Higher Education doesn't care about, or QS doesn't really care about. For me, I frankly worry that if we keep pushing this way, we will lose what makes Ateneo and Jesuit education what it is. No? Because if you focus on publications, it's individualist. Excellence, as defined by publications, is a collection of individual excellences. You have individual faculty. You begin to have a measure of excellence, which is individualist, because that's what counts. But formation is collective. Faculty members have to care for their students. So that is for me a very, very central question that Ateneo should confront. All Jesuit schools should confront and ask themselves, how do you find the correct balance between paying attention to rankings, because of course because it's important for faculty career, yes, accept that. It's also important for alumni who get upset if you're not there. But not lose track of what is really distinctive about us. A real care for our students and nurturing and formation for them. So that's point one. Point two is we focused so much in the 70s and 80s on getting Ateneans down from the hill. Because the Philippines has a terrible social class problem. The gap between upper classes is really immense. No? And one of the Father Noel, we used to say we put up OSCI, the ORD, the Center for Community Services, precisely to get the world of the Atenean to connect with the world of the majority poor. But that is also getting lost. More and more families in the Philippines use English at home. And the disconnect between middle upper class and the majority is getting bigger actually in the Philippines. And I hope that we look at it, and we're essentially becoming a country where a great number of those who could be potential leaders for the future actually just want to go abroad. I hope that we find a way we find a way to engage our students to love our country and the poor, and to see what they can do for us. Those are the two concerns I have. It's the pressure. It's not. We did not create this. It's the pressures coming from the outside. But the question is, are we? How far do we yield to those pressures, and how much do we say that's not totally us? How much do you look at who we really are, and not lose what makes us really Jesuit and Ateneo?
Thank you, Father. Yes, Father Ting.
Maybe I just add something. I think a big thing Ateneo and the Jesuit schools have to tackle is how do you maintain what we feel is important in Jesuit education if there are no Jesuits? So I think the problem will have to be with you and two people who will succeed you. No? We have a Jesuit catalog listing who are the Jesuits in the province, what they do. I looked at it, Ateneo de Manila, this year's catalog, there are only 5 Jesuits who are teaching in the whole university. When I went through high school at Ateneo for 4 years, all of my Latin, English, religion were with Jesuits. Went to Ateneo College, all the Latin, English, philosophy, theology with Jesuits. Well, in the US now, about 3/4 of the presidents of the universities are lay people. The high schools, about the same percentage, 56 high schools, 3/4 are no longer Jesuits. So I think it's a problem not just for Jesuits in the world, it's a real problem here. And the reality is there will be less and less Jesuits. So what are the values of Ateneo de Manila that you feel are important? How do you maintain it? Really, as lay people with families, it really depends on you. No? The 5 Jesuits, the president, how much can they do? The work is really done by the faculty. I think that's a serious problem that I don't know how it's to be solved.
My own reflection on it is that if you simply look at the church today, and if we believe the Holy Spirit still with us, it's really telling us that more and more of this work will have to go to lay people. That's the conclusion. So I think we should not, of course, we would want to have more Jesuits, but what we should really do in a more positive way is to really engage you in this work. I've been encouraged by I've given retreats through the Formation for Formators, F3. Father Johnny Go has this new program, ILF, Ignatian Leadership and Education Program, and I gave the directed retreats to 2 groups, and I'm optimistic about quite a few of the faculty, and I had the chairs of English and chair of IS and so forth. I'm quite optimistic about their engagement with Ignatian spirituality and with the values we talk about formation, about cura personalis. There's a real engagement there. So maybe that's part of what we should say. Let's balance this ranking question and say, this is who we are. And let's really invest a lot more effort in sharing these values, because cura personalis, care for our students, is not only Jesuit. It's a strong thing in Jesuit education, but it's you who actually take care of these students. So I would simply say we have a tradition of education which gives Christian formation, but above all, which really what I say, let me say something. When I give talks about cura personalis, what I say is that this comes from the conviction of Saint Ignatius that all of us are unique and each one of us is uniquely loved by God. We are not cookie cutter. And so uh, each faculty member should be dealt with as an individual, and every student ideally should be dealt with as an individual. That's the ideal of Cura Personalis. And so that does come from Ignatius, because that's his own experience. His own experience, he experienced that God was dealing with him personally, individually, and he would want that is passed on to the next generation. I think we can all aim for that, not perfectly. So that's what I would aim for. I would say we have to trust that the Holy Spirit knows where it's going, and simply as a whole faculty and staff begin to engage one another in sharing these values and passing it on to our students.
Thank you, Father. Actually, we can go on and on. There's a lot more that I know you can share, but I think
I
it's
think
time
it's a
to
good time,
engage the
yes.
audience also.
We open up
So,
for
if you have
questions, comments, recollections. So we have,
Contributions.
so we'll about 10-15 minutes of this, and then
We can lend you our microphone.
sige,
Come on over. Anyone?
Just come to the front.
Doc Kimps.
Dr. Kimpo.
There's a microphone.
Siguro magpakilala si Dr. Kimpo para dun sa mga mga bata.
Wala, marami hindi ko na alam dito. Anyway, I got here very late because I wasn't used to going to school, and my estimate of time was really off. Anyway, just some comments on what Father Ben and Father Ting said about the ranking of the different universities. From the beginning, I really thought that we were being pulled in the wrong direction, because having been, at Atenean High School and college and graduate school, I thought that the sort of orientation, the direction was quite different. Now, you might say that there is some kind of UPization of Ateneo because of that. That's one of the reasons, no? And of course, you also have a lot of faculty members who were graduates from UP. Okay. Now, one more point about the retreats. I don't know if there have been retreats that have been conducted by, let's say, one Jesuit with a team of laymen. Has that been used?
The retreat ministry is doing that. We have not. They've been trying to train retreat givers of lay people. No?
Yeah, I think this could be sort of developed more. Thank you.
Sige, thank you, Norman.
Thank you, Doc.
Are there any questions, thoughts, comments?
Maki, are there questions from wala? No comments also from yeah.
May I say something about the academic? I'll speak for the math department. One of the things I owe to Norman, to Mary Jo, to Joe Marasigan, we really talked a lot. I was very busy, but I know that they took care of the next generation. I think in the math department, almost all the young people here would have studied under the older ones, so in other words, the Cura Personalis in the math department is not just personal; it's academic. No? I think the Norman, Joe, Marasigan, Mary Jo really took the leadership to ensure that the next generation of faculty would finish their PhDs, would be able to transfer abroad, and so on. So, in other words, they're also passing on academic culture. In other words, they're ensuring that the academic culture of the math department would continue. You know? I remember at what point when Norman and Mary Jo were retiring that I really had to have a long talk with Mary Jo to please take over as chair. She was, as you know, Mary Jo was a very reluctant administrator. But I said, I pleaded with her because you really have to be there because you have to continue this culture of taking care of the younger faculty and younger generation. So I would like to say that too, that when we talk about cura personalis, I would like to hope that it extends to academic culture and that in our own departments, we really make sure that we take care of we take care of our undergraduates and help them to go on to graduate school and encourage some of them to join us as faculty so that really you have a community. The department is a community. It's an academic community. Of course, it's also a community for birthday parties, but it's also an academic community.
Yes, Marlo?
I'd like to deviate a little bit from the serious question. I'd like to ask a Miss Universe question. I'm very interested to know, in the last 50 years, Father Ting and Father Ben, what would you consider, I'm sure there are many, as one of the most fulfilling experience as a Jesuit educator? And what would be the one of the challenging ones as a Jesuit educator, and how have all of these been have had an impact in your own personal life as a Jesuit educator? That's a Miss Universe question. Thank you.
Mr. Universe.
Well, you know my own roles at Ateneo de Manila. But for me, one of the most fulfilling was succeeding in Xavier University to, we had the big land development there. And my task was to really negotiate with 300 urban poor families. And I insisted that I insisted that they would be relocated in the same place. It was very tough. It was very, very tough. Because I said that I really believe we have to move away from this thing of segregated communities, and we should be able to have a poor, middle class, upper class be able to live together in the same area. And for me, one of the most fulfilling is that we succeeded. We were able to relocate them there. And the last visit I had there, the community is fantastic now. They have a beautiful church and so on. So that was very fulfilling for me because it was very tough. But it was very fulfilling that at the end, Father Samson had to take over because he had to come here. But I met the people who opposed us, and they came to me when we gave them their land titles and said, Father, kinalaban namin kayo, pero maraming salamat. So that was very fulfilling for me.
When I was in grad school in the US, that's in the mid-late 60s, the talk was about the priest scientist. How do you become a priest and a scientist? Well, I supposedly trained to be a scientist, but I've spent my life as a priest administrator. No? So it's sort of so you notice Ben could talk a lot about math in the Ateneo. I mean, I was in chemistry, but I was much more really in administration. No? What's the most fulfilling thing? Well, really, I did a lot of things I was not prepared for. I ended up with finances. I said, I don't like accountants. But I told Father Balchan, I can see what is red and I can add and multiply. So I think it's been I feel that I've been able to do good work as an administrator in Manila, Davao, and Cagayan. They had different problems. And Mindanao was good because of the beaches. I love the sea.
And the challenging, most challenging.
Well, there are many challenges. But sometimes I tell people that I sometimes I think that I'm assigned to jobs because I have to solve problems. No, that's been true. Like going to Xavier U, actually, the provincial took over from your father in our campus has been. I was asking you to go president of Xavier U because your job is to solve the debt. They have a debt problem. You have to solve the debt. So, yeah, I think they've just been challenged in the 70s. The challenge of engaging the poor and martial law as provincial. I was engaged with the last years of martial law. Tina, Tina and I went through that. The challenges of dealing with the extreme left, with the martial law, right? And in the last years, working with Cardinal Sin and Cory Aquino. So very tense. There were times when we thought was a night when we thought we'd all be arrested in Xavier House. So, there were challenges along. And then, of course, the transition in the 1990s and so on. So, yeah, there have been challenges all along the way. But I don't mind challenges, actually. In fact, when people ask me why I went into mathematics, because the whole education was in classics. Father Ting and I spent so much time in Greek and Latin, no? So, in fact, in my second year of studies in society, I was told that they were thinking of asking me to do a specialization in Greek and Latin classics. No, but I don't find them challenging. I was a bit bored. Well, and I found solving math problems challenging. So I enjoyed solving math problems. So I don't mind challenges. They're difficult, but when you crack them, it's fun.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah,
Well, I suppose the most difficult challenge I had was labor problems. I had a real strike in Davao, not easy. And then when the way I was, as they mentioned, I was in Davao, went to Cagayan, and then one day I was coming out of the airport in Manila. I got a call for the provincial, Danny Wang, asking me to go back to Davao. So I didn't know what the whole thing was about. It's funny, Ed Martinez succeeded me in Davao. We've been together since first year high school. And then I succeeded him in Davao a second time. So really just trying to deal with labor problems was really not easy, no? And we're really not trained for it. You have to just bahala na, no? Ask the help of people. So, but the main thing is how to get the confidence of people to get, after a strike, relationships become very difficult.
yeah. Well, maybe as I didn't ask, since Father Ting was with the missions, and I was going to about scholarships, because maybe just your view on this and how it's helped the.
Well, I think the Father Kreutz could confirm this. The college admissions office, I think, began to get organized in the 60s with Father Tom Steinbugler. I think he was the one who tried to organize the scholarships. And I took over from him. And one of the things that just happened, is at some point in the game, some people who were friendly with the palace, with Mrs. Marcos, at some funeral or wake, I think the Jesuits asked her that scholarships was a big problem at the Ateneo. And she agreed to, at that time, 6 million pesos was a lot of money. She twisted a lot of arms, and that had the foundation. And I must say that in all of these years, the palace, the Marcoses, never got back to us that we gave you that money. No, it's been sort of whatever problems they had, they never. And the Scholarship Foundation was a big help to graduate school, because they was giving it to anybody who's studying in the graduate school, the 60% tuition off. And I think it's the big start for the college. But of course, the biggest part of the scholarship in the college is what the college itself puts in the budget. support. I mean, really from the tuition. The whole idea is you have 40 kids in class. Maybe how much of that maybe you should give back as scholarships to things like that. I think it's really good that the Ateneo is now, I think I understand about 20% of the student bodies in some sort of getting scholarships. Yeah, I think that's a really big thing considering how high the tuition is. But it's interesting, from Manila, it's a different world in Cagayan or Davao. Now their tuition charges are so much smaller than it is here. So it's different schools now, but it's sort of we survive.
Well, I think that's one of the wonderful features of Ateneo College, a real focus on scholarships. That's what the Ting said. The first big effort was really at that time with the famous Van Cliburn concert and so on. But it was very important because it really got us started. And one of the challenges we faced as a dean at that time was really how to integrate this group of students who are coming from poorer sectors. I had to talk to departments before when you assign a movie as an assignment. Please make sure that the scholars can afford to go there. So it also changed us. It also changed us. So we had students who were really hit by jeepney strikes. So it also served to bring the world, the outside world to Ateneo. That was very, very important also, I think. So, and then I think it was in the time of Miren that we started taking 15% of tuition into a scholarship. So I think that culture of really wanting to have as many scholars as possible is really part of the Ateneo College culture. So, and that has continued the years. So I think that's been wonderful and one of the things we can be very proud of.
Yeah, I think Father Bill might be able to share something. Yes. Give the mic. Oh, we'll give you the microphone, Father.
I'll stand up so you can see me, but I can't see you. First of all, I'm very happy to be here today. It was 60 years ago, 1963, before you were born, that Ben and I were co-teachers in the Ateneo High School. In fact, I sat in the classroom for the St. Ignatius Mass. That's where the vestments were. Ben was the teacher of religion to my 1A class back then in 1963. Ting was down, I think, Ateneo de Davao University, Ting? Yeah, so Ting was there. I only met him the summer following when we got together for our summer villa with the Jesuit. So Ben and I have spent a lot of time together. When I was doing a master's degree at Boston College, Ting was doing his doctorate at Brandeis. So we saw one another once in a while during that year. In fact, I gave him my Ateneo jacket before I left for Manila. Ben was in Stanford, so he was on the other side of the world, so to speak. But I came back to Ateneo and taught in the mathematics department part-time while I was still studying, and then full-time beginning in school year, I guess it would have been 1972. What do I recall that's important for what has been mentioned today? I think one thing is the social direction of the Ateneo. Because I recall one summer, I guess it was the summer of, I can't recall if it was 77 or 76, whatever. I spent a summer with a farming family in Santa Maria in Laguna, in a place called Adya. I lived with that family for about 6 weeks, worked in the fields with the husband, walked for long walks to go to a baptism, drank lambanog at night for a happy birthday feast of a friend. And that wasn't always easy because I wanted to sleep. But that came because of the programs that were going on at the Ateneo at that time. And it was really good to have shared that. later on, after I then later became admission and aid, following Rolly Bonawan, who followed Ting. Did Rolly follow you, Ting? Yes, okay. And then I followed Rolly Bonawan. And that was a wonderful number of years. That was, I think, around 1980 to 1989. Wonderful years to work with people, Tita Calazans, Jolly Murata, and the others. But being able to touch the lives of scholars that have been set up by that foundation, and then the 15% that went from budget directly to scholarships was very, very wonderful. And I found that was a very blessed time for me to share things that have been growing and been done by others and that I was able to participate in. I tell often the very simple story of a young man I met outside the office one day. I would say hello to people who came in. Oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Magsaysay, España. Oh, and were you a student there? I said, yeah, I was valedictorian. Oh, I said, you have a scholarship at Ateneo, of course, right away. So he accepted right away. Wonderful, of course. I was delighted. But then later, a week or two later, he comes in, Father, I will not be able to come to Ateneo. No, you come. I was afraid he was going to go to UP or De La Salle, something awful like that. No, I'm only kidding. So anyway, what's the problem? Father, we don't have the money for car fare. Of course, all his life he had probably walked to grade school and high school. And now we would have to take at least 2 jeepney rides to get to Katipunan. So right away, we talked, we made arrangements for him to receive a financial subsidy for transportation. So that sense of the social that I received because of work of Ben had been doing, that sense of taking care of the admissions office was something that had grown through Ting and I, through Rolly Bonawan, through myself. So those were the blessings received. I should note that last evening, there was a gathering of Eagle Watch. Do you know Eagle Watch? Some do, some don't. It's run by the economics department, Alvin Ong, and they had the gathering twice a year. The major speaker yesterday at the Makati Sports Club was the present governor of the central bank, who was an Ateneo scholar. He came here from a public high school, from which high school? By Mapa, yes, Mapa High. Came from a good high school. He was the valedictorian. And Father Steinbugler, mentioned by Father Ting, was the one who went to that school to recruit their best. And their best was this boy, Eli. And Eli has a long career and now is the governor of the Central Bank of the Philippines. He was a boy who he didn't even know of Ateneo when he was in high school. Never heard of it. It was only Father Tom who told him about it and convinced him. So I want today to offer on this particular occasion great thanks to Ting and to Ben, we've shared lives together. We were presidents together in Mindanao for many years. And it was a blessed time. I learned much. The social thing I think I learned and picked up was when I was in Zamboanga was being very open to a community that was very mixed. That people from different backgrounds, and especially Muslim, Christian and all, and it made a direction for the university, which was very important. So that was part of what I learned under the tutelage of Ben and under the sharing with Ting, both of whose families I have known for many years too. So today to Ben and Ting on this anniversary of priesthood, my wonderful congratulations, a prayer and a blessing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Father Bill. Very nice sharing. So I think, well, we just heard the bell. So I guess that's time. Tama.
That's a sign.
Yeah, that's a sign.
So, we'd like to call on Dr. Guerrero to hand some gifts to Father Ting and Father Ben. We thank you very much, Father, for fathers, for agreeing to do this. Actually, it was fun. We had an informal meeting last Monday, and they had a lot more stories at that time. Mga controversial also. So, congratulations. Thank you so much. So we'll call on. Yeah, we'd like to call on Dr. Vilches to say a few words. Yeah, I think we can.
To see you. I just want to take one moment for Ting and for Ben, who both mentioned it. Right now, a very active alumni organization of the Ateneo is the Ateneo Alumni Scholars Association, ASA. And they are supporting almost 40 scholars in the college right now. And they will be supporting more and more. So these are scholars paying back for what they had received on a regular basis. So that kind of a dream of not only having received an Ateneo education, but giving it back is very much a reality now and continually growing. So I just want to add that because you talk about, does it make a difference to be an Atenean? Does it make a difference to have gone to the college? And for many, many graduates, it has made a great difference. And they want to support another whole group of scholars at the Ateneo over the years to come. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Marlo.
Thank you, Father Bill. I was really looking forward to this occasion today because I always find very inspiring the stories of Father Ben. I mean, you know, the stories I've heard him say, but every time he tells about these stories, there's something more inspiring about it. And then, so I can say perhaps that where I am right now, Father Ben was instrumental in pushing me, pushing me in different directions that I never knew. I mean, you know, if it's Father Ben who says, do this, even if I didn't know what it was all about, I would say yes. One of the things that I'm reminded of was at that time when the British Council wanted the Ateneo to be the lead for this Philippines English language teaching project. And at that time, I was at the World Health Organization because I was the director of studies there. And I was at the quandary, Tati Licuanan said, come back because Father Ben wants you to head this one. So, and then I said to Tati, isn't it that because I don't know what this new project is, isn't it that St. Ignatius says, when you decide on something that you know. But anyhow, that I'll tell the story. I don't know if Father Ben remembers this, but so we went to a meeting, me and Tati, like I was here, Tati was here, Father Ben was there. And Father Ben was arguing, you need to come back because at that time I was at the World Health Organization. Of course, it was still part of the learning center that we were running. And Father Ben said, I'd like you to come back because this is something important. And I was sort of still trying to argue. And then Father Ben said to me, I don't know about you, Marlo, but this has national significance. So, oh my gosh, I said to Tati, I will come back. No questions asked. I said, I will come back. And so I said, Father, what am I supposed to do? So he handed me this 30-page document. He said to me, you study that. I said, well, what am I supposed? You study that and go to British Council director. You know the British Council, you go. So what I did was I sort of plotted out what it was all about. I said to Father, Father, here is what I analyzed. He said, no, you go to the British Council director. And then I said to the British Council director, I was sent here by my president. Is this the right thing to do? And he says, yes. So go ahead. And so I said at that time, what am I doing here? Do I know what I'm doing? But I trusted in Father Ben's wisdom. And that was not the first time that he entrusted me something that I had no idea what to do. But in the end, the Holy Spirit always works, Father. So I'd like to thank Father Ben. And then even when I was doing my PhD and at the same time working on the Philippines English language teaching project, I was doing my PhD at that time. Father Ben was very gracious in supporting me in that project. So every time now I am at a quandary, I run to Father Ben. Father Ben, can we have breakfast or lunch or dinner? He already knows what is there in store for that. So thank you very much, Father Ben. It's been really, really an honor to know you and to be under your tutelage. With Father Ting, right now, we're both members of the board of PAASCU. So it's nice to be able to work with Father Ting that way, because Father Ting for me has been a very distant Jesuit because he's been in Mindanao. But I have known Father Ting through Sol Reyes, through Chita Rosales, who would tell me every time they'd go out of town, they'd ask for mga pasalubong daw from Father Ting. And Father Ting coming from Mindanao would have all of these pasalubongs for them. So that's how I know Father Ting to be very close to these ladies who we know as very productive, but also knew how to be joyful and to be gracious with Father Ting. So now we're in the same PAASCU, and I gain wisdom from him as well, who has been there a very long time. We had a strategic planning workshop when was that? A month ago or something like that. And so Father Ting's input there, I always listen to it because, the PAASCU was the brainchild of the Jesuits. And so I'm glad that we still have a Jesuit there with PAASCU. And so all of these things I have gained as well from association with them. And so I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be here. And I'd like to thank the Science and Engineering School, Dr. Paing Guerrero, and the Math Department for always be a home to Father Ben. And even if the Chemistry Department was not really much of a home to Father Ting, because he was an administrator most of the time and did all the numbers. But I'd like to thank the entire SOSE and the entire university for helping us, for producing. I don't know whether the university produced it, but they produced who we are here in this university. So thank you very much. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Toby.
So we'd like to call on Dr. Paeng to close, and then we will have a photo op. Yeah. We have a good number.
Good evening, everyone. I think this is the first time I've seen Father Ting in 3D. I usually see him on Zoom during PPAC board meetings, and during those meetings, I feel always his passion for the Institute, PPAC, and for chemistry. So he always keeps us grounded. As for Father Ben, as a scientist, Father Ben is a national scientist, so I'm a huge fanboy. So my job is just to thank all of you, friends and colleagues of Father Ben and Father Ting, for joining this celebration. Our beautiful venue and set this evening is courtesy of Joffrey San Esteban, Jess Suelo, Rico Narciso, Juna Sense, and Jocelyn Lingan. Our live streaming and technical support is provided by Michael Tagasa, Edwin Evero, and Rodel Crisostomo. So thank you for making this event possible. I'd like to thank the chairs, faculty, and staff of our departments of mathematics and chemistry for supporting Father Ben, Father Ting, and of course, Ms. Grace Burgaño and the heroic team at the Sauce Dean's office and Arise for never letting me down, and for making miracles happen. I appreciate the presence of VP Marlu and all other administrators. Thank you for joining this celebration. Father Ben and Father Ting, in my stewardship of the school, I am guided by our vision of excellence and our mission of service. Thank you for embodying that vision and for living that mission and for making all of this possible for all of us. You continue to inspire us all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And I guess we're welcome to have some pictures with Father Ben and Father Ting.